Hi guys, thanks for checking in. I've been testing these new three-way monitors this week. I posted about it on Instagram last week and I had loads of comments and messages from some of you guys asking me what I thought and what the results were. So I thought I'd do this little video, maybe help some of you make a decision in the near future. Big shout out to KMR in London and Stefan and the team there for giving me the Neumanns and the Genelecs on demo. It's really, really handy to be able to try them out in your own environment instead of sort of listening to them in a display room. You know, there can be a lot of difference in translation when you move it into different rooms. So that's been really helpful. I have got the Neumann Kh310s and the Genelec 8341s here, and my Eve Audio SC307s are my current studio monitors, all three-way monitors, all near fields. I've run all the tests without any sort of DSP or any room connect correction, just because they all have kind of different styles of that, and I didn't really want to get in the way of testing them. So they're all just done as are, fresh out the box. And I've been using 3 tracks that I've made myself, that I've mixed, and so I know them really well. I know what's good about them, what's bad about them, and I've also used a couple of tracks that I know really well from other producers who I really like, and I'm familiar with the mix. So that's been my sort of testing format. I'm just coming straight out the back of my Allen and Heath console. There's no sort of fancy monitor controlling or anything like that. I unfortunately aren't able to A/B. That would be really nice, but I've just had to set them up and sort of spend half an hour on them, and then after that, then spend another day with them each one. And the results are really interesting. As I say, the Eve Audio SC307s are my current monitors. I've been using them for about 2 years. And before then, I was using the 207s to go to the two-way version. So I'm very familiar with the Eve sound, specifically the ribbon tweeters, which I really like. I like the way the top end translates in this room. It's really vibey, it's really clear. I like the stereo image. And they're ported speakers as well, so I feel like I'm getting a lot of bass. I'm getting a lot of vibe from them. I feel like I can write on them because I get that vibe. You want that vibe when you're writing, but there's enough detail in there and there's enough precision for me to get a good mix out of them as well. So all in all, I've been really happy with using the Eves over the last sort of 4 years. So why would I want to change? Well, there's sort of 3 main reasons that I wanted to sort of test out some other options to see if there was anything I was missing. And the first reason was sort of cabinet size. As you can see, these are quite wide and there's quite a large distance between the bass driver and the mid-range driver. And the issue with there is sort of a listening distance. So in the manual for the Eves, I think it says the recommended listening distance is about 1.4 meters. But due to the size of my room, it's not very long, and I've got the I'm monitoring on the top of the shelf on the top of my console. My distance is roughly 1 meter, some maybe a little bit less than that. So that's not a lot of time for the sort of the frequencies all to sort of combine and to get an accurate image of what's happening. So that's one issue, and the reason why I took these Genelecs was due to that. Now this is a coaxial design, so although it may look like one driver, it's actually got it's a 3-way monitor, and the drivers for the mid-range and the tweeter are both situated in exactly the same place. And according to Genelec, that means that you are able to monitor from a much shorter distance. And when I tried them, that was definitely the case. They sounded really good. And certainly being able to monitor from a shorter range between maybe 80 centimeters and 1 meter, and there were no issues there at all. Another thing with the coaxial design is that, or at least Genelec claim, is that the sweet spot can be quite a lot bigger. When you're moving your head around between your monitors and you move back and forth, you often get quite a big difference in the frequency spectrum and what you're hearing, especially in the stereo image. And apparently the sweet spot is supposed to be bigger with these. I didn't really get that myself. I found that when I was in the sweet spot, it sounded great, but moving around, it sort of had the same kind of effect that I was getting on my Eves. So that's one reason. The other reason I wanted to try some other monitors out is the onboard DSP. Now, I mentioned that I'm using SonarWorks in my studio, which works really well. I've got quite a lot of treatment in here, but it's a small room. There are a couple of peaks and a couple of nulls. So I use SonarWorks to iron those out. But the issue there is SonarWorks only gives me 2 outputs. So if I ever want to send stems out of Logic and use my console and mix on the console. I can't do that when I'm using SOUNDCLOUD because I've only got 2 outputs. I'm sure there's some really clever people on YouTube that may be able to come across a solution for that for me. I'm sure there is one, but I haven't managed to find it yet. So having the DSP on board the monitor and not having to use SOUNDCLOUD is a big plus for me. Now the Eves have got, like all of them do, they've got some sort of filters at the back where you can change things, you know, a few frequency ranges, but nothing as specific as you get with SOUNDCLOUD. The Neumanns don't actually have them built in, but the Neumann have recently released a new sub. I think it's the 750, which has got DSP built into it, and once you connect the satellites to it, it can correct those. So I don't have that with me. I haven't been able to try that out, but that is why one of the reasons I wanted to test these. And the Genelecs have got their SAM system, smart system, which again houses the DSP on board the speaker, and therefore, you know, there's no need for SOUNDCLOUD. So that was another point. I think the final issue was sort of the difference between a ported and a closed cabinet. Now, using Eves for the past 4 years, the Eves and my previous ones as well were ported. So, you know, notoriously ported speakers will give you a better vibe, a bigger, fatter bass sound, but maybe it's a little bit flabby and not as accurate. Whereas the closed cabinet designs, from my research anyway, tend to give you a little bit more of a focused bass and maybe a little bit more accurate when it comes to mixing. So you know, when I tried the Neumanns out and I put them in, immediately I noticed the difference in the mid-range. Quite a prominent mid-range, very detailed, but at the same time, just coming from these, it sort of sounded a bit boxy in my room. Now I'm sure that's because of the fact that I'm used to one set of monitors and then I'm quickly going to these, and just the differences, you know, they are night and day. They're quite different monitors. So I'm sure that over time would go and you would be left with a really accurate, great sounding monitor, which the Kh310 is. You know, it's been, you know, in circulation for a long time. It's always popping up in loads of studios, and loads of great producers rely on them. So I'm sure it's a fantastic monitor, but I just think that possibly I can't really see myself, I can't really feel the need to go for something so different when I'm used to these and this kind of vibe. Also, as well, with it being closed back, yes, the bass did sound a little bit tighter, but I feel like I was losing that low end extension and that real sort of energy and vibe that I was getting. So I would have to pair these with a sub to get that, which obviously adds to the cost. So yeah, I think the Neumanns are just a little bit too different to what I'm used to, and it would take me too long really to adjust. So the Genelecs, on the other hand, sounded much closer to what I'm used to, but better in pretty much every department. Stereo image, the top end, the low end, it was tighter, but it was still had enough vibe to it. So yeah, I really like the Genelecs. So, you know, you would think I'm going to be going with the Genelecs. The answer to that is no, I'm going to stick with my Eves. And the reason for that is price. Now, the Eves retail at £1,600 a pair, and the Genelecs retail at 4,500 about a pair. They're like 2,300 each. So we're talking about a difference of like three and a half grand. And for the difference that I was getting, yeah, okay, they did sound a bit better, but I don't think for me it's worth it for the extra £3,000. I think it would be better spent elsewhere. So yeah, you have to factor in budget, and you know what you're getting for your money. If I was starting from scratch, I didn't own a pair of monitors and I was testing these three, I think I probably would still buy the Eves. Again, you know, that you were talking about that difference in budget. Yeah, I think it's I think you have to factor that in. And the Eves, they sound great. I mean, I really do like them, and this has just sort of reinforced the fact that I'm not really missing out on anything. I'm getting great results from what I'm using, and it really is about how well you know your monitors at the end of the day. You know, people can mix on anything if they know them well. If they know the room, they know the monitors, they're familiar with it, then you can get good results on pretty much anything. So yeah, that's sort of the conclusions that I've come to. My one thing that I am going to try is adding a Neumann 750 sub to my setup. So I contacted Neumann and I asked them about the sub, and basically it's just an analog connection. So you come out of the sub and you go with your XLR cables into the back of your satellites via analog connection. So I said, would that work with any analog connection? It doesn't just have to be Neumann's, it could be any analog speaker, and that's correct. So I'm going to try that. I'm going to get the Neumann sub, and hopefully that will result in a little bit of a tighter bass response, because the sub's going to be taking over those lower frequencies. I will be able to have the onboard DSP, and I won't have to use SonarWorks, so I'll be able to multi-track out on my DAW, and you know, life will be amazing. That's the plan. So yeah, I hope that was helpful, and yeah, thanks for watching.